Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order this June 17th meeting of the Patton Township Board of Supervisors. I'd like to advise our viewing audience that 3 of our supervisors are on remote link. And I'd also like to remind the supervisors who are on remote that if I can't see your hand raised, please just yell out, yo Betsy, or Madam Supervisor, or whatever. And Dan will also look out for me, so I had trouble last time. I would like to start with the pledge. Those who can, please join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all. As always, we open our meetings with comments from the public. If you have anything you wish to talk about that is not on the agenda coming up, you may do so at this time. Doug, did you receive any emails or phone calls?
No, we have not received any emails or phone calls.
And for anybody watching, we have a phone number and I believe there's an email up there. If you have a question during the course of the meeting, please send it on in or pick up the phone. We next move to presentations and or public hearings. We've got 2 items under this. The first one is called a statement of current events, and that could really refer to a number of things, but in this case it refers to some of the social unrest that is occurring around the country on a very important matter of Black Lives Matter. I'm going to ask Supervisor Robb to introduce the resolution that she and Supervisor Tees wrote. And before that, I'll have the manager just give a brief overview of what we've done before, or I could do that.
Yeah, just very briefly, we've back in 2017, the board had passed a resolution, more general terms than what we'll probably talk about today, on commitment to uphold non-discrimination laws and to declare support and protection of the citizens of Patton Township. And then more recently, in response to the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Chief Jolly had issued a statement along with the other law enforcement agencies in the area. And today, the board has drafted the resolution 2020-14 that's up on the screen. And with that, I'm going to let Supervisor Robb. There you are.
All right. Thank you. Good afternoon, board members.
Hi.
This resolution is a collaborative effort between Anita Thies and I. It is important that the Patton Township Board of Supervisors publicly denounce racism and the systematic oppression and brutality against people of color and other populations that do not have a voice. As many of you are aware, Patton Township adopted resolution in 2017 to promote diversity and inclusion, welcoming diverse population to visit and live in our community, free from discrimination. In that resolution, they too also call for the elimination of systematic racism and oppression of the unrepresented population. Patton Township has continued to lead by example. Police Chief Taylor Jolly's outstanding statement addressing the death of George Floyd that was placed on the township website was a first. His leadership reflects his values and his ability to ensure that his officers treat every individual they interact with as a valued member of this community. Patton Township was also the first township to appoint a person of color to the Board of Supervisors. This second resolution affirms our commitment to promoting diversity, equality, and inclusion in our community. In It affirms our commitment to fighting racism, oppression, and brutality. And it affirms our commitment to continuing to engage in a critical conversation that is needed in order to achieve our goals. We call upon the Board of Supervisors, township staff, and residents of this community to stand up for social justice and for those whose voices have the right to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Supervisor Tees, do you have anything to add? I know you worked collaboratively with Pamela Robb to draft this really excellent resolution.
No, I second all that Pam said, and I thank Pam for her leadership in this area.
And I thank both of you for running with this. Is there any other discussion by any board members?
I'd like to move that we adopt Resolution 2020-014.
Do I hear a second? It looks like Mr. Abrams. Great. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you again. Proud to be in Patton Township. We're moving on to our second item under presentations and public hearing, and that would be the Benner Township rezoning on Fillmore Road. So I am definitely going to turn this over to Dr. Erickson, Mr. Erickson.
No, Mr. Erickson, yes. And I'm going to turn it over to
Oh, Steve.
Nicole Pollock.
Oh, yay.
And she's going to give us an introduction, and then we'll hear from a representative from the Airport Commission, or Airport Authority. Go ahead, Nicole.
All right. So Benner Township is considering a rezoning request for an 88.77 acre piece of property that's located along Fillmore Road next to the Fullington bus station, or bus depot, I'm not exactly sure. Currently, the property is located in Benner's industrial district, but they are requesting to have it rezoned to their R2 district to give some residential properties placed out there. The concept plan that we have in the agenda materials does not depict exactly how many dwelling units they would like to place in this property. And there is a range of lot sizes and number of dwellings depending on type that could go in the R2 in Benner. The Benner Township Planning Commission has recommended approval for this item to their board, and the board and Benner has set their public hearing date for July 6th. There are a few items of note for Patton Township that I would like to bring to your attention. There are potential traffic impacts, as there will be 2 access points along Fillmore Road that could have some sort of impact on Patton Township. So, it might be worthwhile to see if we could review the traffic impact assessment to determine whether or not there will be any detrimental impacts to Patton Township. There is a little bit of lack of planning consistency with this rezoning. We did review their updated comprehensive plan for the Nittany Valley region that Benner is a part of. That was adopted in October of 2019. And in the land use map that they are using in that, they do have this parcel identified as industrial. So there would be a little bit of an inconsistency there with the long-term planning if they were to rezone this to residential. And then finally, the University Park Airport is located very nearby, and that is very much a regional economic driver. And the University Park Airport and the Center County Airport Authority, Penn State University, the Chamber of Business and Industry of Center County, and Happy Valley Adventures Bureau have all come out to say that they are opposed to this rezoning. And Patton Township's representative to the Center County Airport Authority, George Downsboro, is here with us tonight. So George, if you have some input for us.
Yes, thank you very much, Nicole. I appreciated your write-up. Doug, you could keep that exhibit 3B3 up. What you'll notice here is that the closest point of the rezone.
Oops, you froze up on us, George.
I
You're
froze up
unfrozen
on.
now.
70 degrees out.
He's unfrozen now.
Okay, go ahead, George. Try it again.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The corner of the rezoned property is approximately 1,900 feet from the end of the existing runway. This, as Nicole pointed out, is currently in the Benner Township Industrial Zone. The Airport Authority feels that the industrial zoning is a much more compatible set of uses with the airport than residential zoning. The Center County Airport Authority owns approximately 43 acres. You'll notice on this image that Doug has up, there's a stormwater detention areas parcel. That is Center County Airport Authority land, and it is immediately adjacent to the parcel to be rezoned. This image that's up also shows the future planning that's on file with the Federal Aviation Administration for the 20-year plan for the airport. It shows the future terminal area overlaying the current Fox Hill Road. At that point, Fox Hill Road would be closed. You see a double dashed line going right through the rezoned area. That is notionally a relocated Fox Hill Road that intercepts what's currently Siebert Road and Airport Road in Benner Township. Obviously, that doesn't seem to be compatible with the rezoning that's shown in the concept plan. I think that's all I have to say, but I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
George, I have a question.
Thanks, Anita, yeah.
It seems that the Benner Township Planning Commission did not give great weight to the recommendations of the Airport Authority and Penn State and others who were raising questions on this. Is there any power that those who are objecting to this rezoning have to influence the Benner Township Board of Supervisors?
It's somewhat limited, I would say. Yes, you're quite right. The approach of the Planning Commission seemed to be caveat emptor, that if people wanted to buy these properties and live there, that was their problem. The Planning Commission wasn't going to prevent this landowner from rezoning the property, and they forwarded a recommendation to approve onto the supervisors. You can see I attached a letter from the Airport Authority, and by the way, I voted for submitting this letter. If you think I've made a mistake, part of the reason I'm here would be to get direction from the Board of Supervisors. The Benner Township rep to the Airport Authority abstained from the vote to approve this letter. He is an elected supervisor, so he will be ruling on this after the public hearing.
Is there anything, George, you'd recommend that we as a township do with that public hearing coming up? I presume the public hearing will be by Zoom?
I don't know. The Planning Commission meeting was an in-person meeting. Nicole has prepared written comments. My suggestion might be that you submit Nicole's comments to Benner Township. The Airport Authority and Penn State are already on record with our letter to both the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors.
I mean, should one of us who is brave enough to go into an indoor meeting, I'm not one of those, should we show up physically at their public hearing?
I leave that up to the board.
I believe we
Because
just,
Nicole's statement is excellent. I mean, that's wonderful.
I believe that the Center County Airport Authority will attend the public hearing as an adjacent landowner.
Okay.
But I'm certainly not going to presume to tell the Patton Township Board of Supervisors what to do.
we actually discussed this at the last meeting, and I had asked Nicole, or after Nicole's presentation, we'd wondered, likewise, was there anything that we can do? My understanding is they provided us the courtesy.
Well, this is slightly
giving us the
different than what we talked about. That was their general rezoning,
Oh,
or their
yeah.
rewrite of their rezoning ordinance,
Right, that's right.
which didn't include this either, but, I mean, the board somebody could go and represent the board, I could go and represent the board. As George noted, Nicole has already put together, I think, our talking points for us. So, just to be, I think, on the record, I would suggest we both send a letter to them and plan on
And an
some way, at
emissary.
least one person attending on behalf of the board.
Do you feel comfortable attending?
Yeah, I'll as long as
and-
I can practice social distancing,
Yeah,
wear my
Elliot.
mask.
Thank you, sorry, missed you. Yes, Mr.
Elliot
Abrams.
has a comment.
Yes, Mr. Abrams.
I don't think we should appear to interfere with anything Benner Township wants to do. But, and the airport, in fact, is mostly in Benner Township. But that implies to me that we should be hearing from the township, or should have heard from Benner, that they had a concern with the expansion plans of the airport before this point. That it's no secret that the airport authority and everyone else has talked about expanding the airport and reserving land near it, and not to be developed for anything that would interfere with the airport. And so this is just, as far as I'm concerned, not being on the airport authority, this is a total surprise and shock, really, that the township in which the airport is now potentially saying we don't want it anymore, but didn't tell us in advance.
Have they, I don't know if I missed something there, have they actually said they don't want it anymore, or are you implying by their actions that they don't seem to want it anymore?
This action,
Okay,
I
sure.
mean, you're putting a whole new development right there at the airport, and the minute everybody moves in, people are gonna say, where did all this noise come from? The plane's taking off landing. We didn't know this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would recommend that we ask Mr. Erickson to attend. I think it's very important to be on the record, especially given some of the aggravations of, that's going to have on our traffic somewhere down the road, as it were. Yes, Mr. Abrams.
One other thought is that perhaps Benner Township would like us to help them with something that they're doing that we could help them with. We've always had a cooperative relationship with them, and there's no reason for that not to continue. So,
Any suggestions on how we would go about that?
well, we can tell them that we're interested in cooperating them with anything that they're talking about, or at least discussing it with them.
Sounds like a good idea to me. Any other comments, opinions from the board on that?
Well, I would ask Doug to emphasize that the supervisor, and I'm assuming we haven't heard from Pamela yet, or Betsy weighing in on this, that emphasize that our board strongly objects to rezoning this parcel.
Yeah. Yes, Pam, sorry. Supervisor, Rob.
I agree, if it's okay with Doug, that he attends with our letter of concern.
Yes.
Doug, do you feel comfortable?
Yeah, I can do
in
that.
go- Okay.
I mean, I think what we'll do is Nicole will probably put together a first draft of the letter. I'll circulate it to Betsy and the other members just to make sure we haven't misstated anything. And then we'll get that off to them. as soon as possible. And, you know, my presentation will basically be the letter to reinforce what's on the letter and that we object to it and think it should remain industrial because it's a much more complementary zoning for the airport use, the adjacent airport use. So I would just ask so we have a clear record
Yeah.
that there's a motion and a second and a vote to direct me to do that.
Yep, I will entertain a motion then.
I so move.
Second?
We got it down.
A second.
Yep. I think that was either Elliot or Dan.
And a vote.
I'm sorry?
A vote.
Oh, yes. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. And
Thank you.
special thanks to Mr. Downsborough. Good to see you again.
Thank
I
you.
have one more question.
Yes, please.
I know with the Patton Crossing rezoning, that proposal was flown by COG because it had regional implications or something. Since the airport is of regional concern and this potential rezoning impacts the regional airport, is this something that they also are required or would be helpful for them to fly by the appropriate COG committee?
I'm going to
Well,
Doug.
I think the answer is Benner is not a member of the COG,
Right.
so I don't know. Nicole, do you
Sorry,
know this, does this go to the county for comment also, or what's the process for Benner?
Yeah, the county has reviewed this, and they did provide information to Benner. I'm not entirely sure how strong of a stance they took in terms
Okay.
of supporting or opposing the rezoning. But yeah, Benner Township is not part of the center region,
Right.
and so I'm not sure that this would really need to go through any committees. I could double check with Jim May to see if he thinks we could put it through and maybe get another letter generated that way.
Yeah, why don't you do that and see what Jim has to say?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Sure.
Elliot has a comment. I'm sorry
Elliot.
for my ignorance as a new supervisor. Go ahead.
No, thank you so much. I'm not used to this technology. Mr. Abrams?
We used to have a representative to the county planning commission. I did that during most of the 90s. I'm not sure if we do anymore.
I don't think so.
Should we rethink that, or is that necessary?
I'm not sure. I mean, the county has assigned the review role that they would normally have to Center Region Planning Commission.
Okay.
So I'm not, I think we notify the county of everything we do and they send us back a form letter saying they've delegated that review to the Center Region Planning Commission. I think Anita makes a point about the airport being a regional asset that the COG may want to, on that basis, make comment.
So do you want to take care of sending that to, sending the letter and a write-up of this? It may be on their radar already to COG.
I think we can let Nicole run it through Jim May, if
Perfect.
you're okay
Okay.
with that.
Yeah, that's good.
I think ultimately, it's probably Center Region Planning
Yeah,
Agency / Planning Commission that would take that role and let them make that decision.
okay. And we send a member to that?
Yes, we have a
From the
member on the
Commission.
Planning
Yeah,
Commission.
No, I can't remember who it is.
I'm drawing a blank. I think it's Brian Rader this year.
Okay, gotcha.
Have they already chimed in on what they think, our planning commission, the regional planning commission?
You know, I don't recall it in the presentation from the Planning Commission or
No, the Planning Commission hasn't looked at it, because,
well, the Regional Planning Commission.
yeah, I don't believe so. So Nicole will take that question to Jim May.
Okay. So anything else that we need to do? I'm assuming there are no public comments or questions. We've given you direction to
Yep.
carry the letter and have Nicole get a letter also from the county and attend the meeting. So I think we can move on. Is that it? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. We're on to our next area, public safety, and there are two items under that. The first is our monthly report from our chief, and the second is to actually schedule a work session with the chief. So Chief, you're on. Chief
Great.
Tyler
Thank you very
Jolly.
much. Good evening, everybody. May of 2020, we saw things kind of go back to normal for us and back where we expect to see our numbers. We did have 100 traffic stops, we wrote 42 traffic citations, 3 parking tickets, and then had 34 criminal arrests. That is a little bit off. I will say that some of those are because the courts were closed in April, so we had to hold back some of our criminal complaints and filed them in the month of May. So about 14 or 15 of those are cases that happened in April. However, with the courts closed and the district attorney's office asking us to lift them, we filed them in May. That's why that number is a little bit high. The Bike Patrol did a fantastic job with 140 miles ridden, 294 business checks being done, 2 incidents handled, 2 parking tickets issued, and they did 5 vacation home checks. Again, the area of focus was really on the parks, though, to get out there and be accessible to the public on the department notes. We had a 20-year-old male who was arrested for DUI after losing control of his vehicle and crashing into a ditch. The male fled the scene, but was located at his residence and was found to be highly intoxicated. We had a 34-year-old female who was arrested for DUI and possession of drug paraphernalia and a controlled substance. This stemmed from a traffic stop for her not stopping at a stop sign. We had a 22-year-old male arrested and charged with simple assault, false imprisonment, and harassment. And this was a result of a domestic dispute that we had responded to. And a 47-year-old male who was arrested and charged with terroristic threats and stalking. These charges resulted from threats that the individual made against his family. 9 individuals were arrested for retail theft, 2 for DUI, and 5 for trespassing. And a few of those trespassing were from incidents that occurred in our parks after hours. For community relations, we participated in a couple of Child's Day parades. Officer Barzell participated in one, and so did Sergeant Chepenko. Officer Carter attended a Zoom meeting with a local Girl Scout troop. They were very disappointed. They were supposed to come in and see our station and do a tour of our cars and see the equipment that we have here. However, obviously with COVID, we had to improvise, did it via Zoom. But they were very appreciative that we still were able to attend and help them out with earning a safety badge. And then Officer Tuskovich participated in the Light Up the Night at the State College Area School District on May 20th. We received quite a few thank you notes this month. One of my favorites is at the bottom of page, on the back of page 1. Obviously a young person sent something into our agency thanking us for our work and making sure people are at home and safe. I really especially like the fact that they say, someday I want to be a police officer just like you. That's fantastic. So we really appreciated that one. We did get a compliment for Officer Barthel handling an accident at a parking lot. The person just mentioned that he was very quick, efficient, and kind throughout the whole process, and impressed with his follow-up after his investigation was completed. On the bottom of of page 3 is actually from the Daisy Troop that Officer Carter did the Zoom meeting with, their appreciation for his participation in that. And on the back of page, the back of page 2 would be, is one of our birthday parades. Thank you from the young person who had a birthday that day with us driving through in their neighborhood. And so we really appreciate all the outreach that we received from the community for everything that we have done this past month of May. For the training and department activities in May, we're starting to see training starting to open up just a little bit more. Our tactical team did train again in May. Officer Schaefer attended a drug recognition expert instructor certification. So he already is a drug recognition expert, but now he's going to be an instructor also. And that's a very big accomplishment. There's not very many of those in the state of Pennsylvania, so we're really proud that he's taking the training for that. He has another week where he does assessments actually in Philadelphia coming up here soon. I attended the campus community unity meeting, a Penn State football traffic planning meeting, a mental health task force meeting, and then also some other meetings related to the COVID-19. We'll talk about our written exam here in just 1 second, but the call list, you can see that we had 381 calls for service. That's up from 292 in April. So like I said, we're starting to get back to our normal numbers on call volume. 59 of those were health and safety EMS assists, 58 were traffic incidents. And then I also just wanted to mention 15 of our incidents were for high grass and so just a reminder to all of our township residents, your grass cannot be 6 inches in length. If it is, then it's not in compliance with our brush, grass, and weed ordinance. And likely you'll be visited by an ordinance enforcement officer who on the first visit will provide a warning. You'll have 72 hours then to get your property into compliance. So just like I said, just try to keep up with cutting the grass and making sure it's below 6 inches. Going back to the training and activities, on the bottom there, I did write there that we held our written exam for the position of police officer on May 16th. We were still kind of in the midst of COVID at that time, so we did the best we could to social distance and put as many precautions in place as we could. We actually had our testing location in our meeting room, and then we also tested at the Patton station for the Alpha Fire Company. So we used those 2 locations, used 2 different times, so we technically gave the test 4 times in 1 day, but we were able to limit exposure to only about 14 people per testing site. So we had very good social distancing. Everybody had their own table. We had 52 candidates who took the exam, and this actually changed since I wrote this and submitted it. We actually interviewed 20 of individuals with an oral interview, and they did their physical agilities last Thursday and Friday on June 11th and June 12th. And I'm very happy to report we have a fantastic group of applicants. We're going to move forward with their background checks here within the next week or 2. And we're looking to, at this point now, replacing Officer Shoemaker, who's going to be retiring in December. So we're getting that prepared with the anticipation of his retirement coming up. So that's all I have as far as the report. I do want to comment on an email too before we move on, but I'll answer any questions before we do that.
Any questions
Yes,
or comments?
Yes,
Go ahead,
I have a
Anita.
question. I noticed there were 16 domestic disputes, and I'm wondering how that compares to previous years. Do you think that's an impact of the people being at home with the home restrictions? Has that increased the amount of domestic violence that you're seeing?
Yes, it has. In fact, that is a higher number than what we generally see. Generally, we're in the maybe 5 to 6 range per month. So that number is a little bit higher, yes.
And also I noticed that 14 of the EMS calls were for breathing difficulties. Can we presume that those were potential COVID people that your staff and EMS and the police are responding to?
I don't want to say that we could presume that necessarily. Generally, we do receive information if it is a COVID-related call. It's not unfrequent for us to have many breathing difficulty calls generally throughout the year. So I wouldn't want to necessarily say those were all related to COVID. However, I will say any locations where we are aware COVID is prevalent, our officers still are not responding to EMS calls there unless there is some life-saving measure that needs to be taken. If it's just a general, that they would just go and assist the ambulance crew with maybe carrying equipment or helping the load getting onto a stretcher, we generally are not responding to those at this point still.
I was just wondering if that's creating extra stress for the police, that you have to be protected when you go on these calls.
Yeah, if we do go in, like I said, on something where we have a pretty good indication COVID is present, yes, we definitely have all the PPE still in the cars. We're still in good shape with PPE, but it definitely changes things, and our officers are being very, very aware of that as well.
Okay, well, thank you for your office's good work.
Any other questions? Anyone? I do have a question. Officers wear face masks going in, that correct?
Officers wear face masks.
face mask, not necessarily the, was it the N98, N95s, but,
Correct, yeah. If they are entering any businesses, residences, or speaking to anybody here inside the township building, yes, they do wear masks.
okay, gotcha, yeah, I figured, thank you. Any other questions? Chief Jolly, have you ever heard of Officer Buckle and Gloria, the children's book?
I do not believe I have, no.
Okay, I put it on my to-do list to get a copy to you. It's a great story about policing and somebody wanting to be a police officer.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I really like that letter. That was a great letter. So.
And a great, right, and a great dog named Gloria. Yeah, so I think we received item from the planner that, oops.
Yeah,
Sorry about that, yeah.
we had received an email that went to the board members and to me, I guess it was either late yesterday or this morning, I forget when, but from a township resident asking about use of force policies and some recommendations. I just thought Chief Jolly could address some of those issues right now, and we told the resident we would address the issues with the board tonight and then
Right.
let him know. He did say he'd be watching us on CNET, so if you'd allow Chief Jolly to go through that issue, and then we can go in and schedule the review sessions.
The time, yes, great. I read some of his, the items that were.
If you want to just recap what the questions were, Tyler, and then provide information.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, this morning we did receive an email from a resident here in the township. And to kind of paraphrase, he had two questions, essentially. One of them related to Penn State University Police and also State College Police Department, I believe it was a few days ago, put out a joint statement saying that they have already adopted the 8 Can't Wait proposals by Campaign Zero. Some of those include a ban on chokeholds, duties for officers to intervene if they see somebody using excessive force, using de-escalation techniques, maybe giving a warning prior to using deadly force, are just a few of the examples of some of the proposals that are in that Campaign Zero. We as well already adhere to all of those proposals. We are accredited, just as a reminder, by the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission. We are one of 120 agencies in the state of Pennsylvania that have accomplished that accreditation. And that means we follow and employ standards specific to legislative legal mandates set forth by the state. So we are already accomplishing those 8 proposals. I did notice that one of the proposals can be found elsewhere in our policy. It might be more relevant in use of force. So I probably will be discussing that issue with our accreditation manager tomorrow. And that relates to the duty for officers to intervene if they observe excessive force. It might be better suited in our use of force section of our policy. So we'll look to maybe adding that into that section. We attained accreditation though in 2012. So pretty much all of those proposals, we've adhered to those either since then or even before that time. So that addresses the first question. The second question surrounded around State College Police Department making their policies and procedures public, and they posted them on their website. And he had mentioned or asked if the Patton Township Police Department use of force policy was public. The answer to that at this moment right now is no. However, the second question and follow-up to that is if not, could it be made? And the answer to that is absolutely it can be. So I'm in the process right now of reviewing our use of force policy, and in compliance with the PA Right to Know Act, I'm going to redact portions of the use of force policy that deal with or discuss tactics and other items that could compromise our officer safety for officers while they're out there doing their duty. But I think we're going to look to try to maybe get that posted on our website either later this week or early next week. And then lastly, he actually brings up, and this is something else I can really just quickly touch on, training. And he mentions PERF, which is the Police Executive Research Forum.
Yeah.
Training that they have. And ironically enough, I received an email from Chief Albright kind of talking about it a little bit. And he's looking into actually hosting the training that this individual had mentioned, and actually has a date as early as mid-August to bring a train the trainer here. And again, it's talking about de-escalation, really a way to enhance our de-escalation training that we receive. So getting train the trainers, so that way we could have a trainer here within our agency and be able to help us during training and I think that it addresses everything that he had in his email. So.
Great. I'd like to note that I had read some of the information in the critical issue, the PERF publication, Critical Issues in Policing, the Guiding Principles on the Use of Force. I was very impressed with it, and I'm ecstatic that you'll be taking advantage of that training. It's a little bit difficult to hear with your with the voice there, but I'm assuming you're going to do that training or be training the trainer in, you said July or August?
Yeah, we're looking to bring it here as early as mid-August. That's correct.
Mid-August. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Any comments from other board members? Yeah, Mr. Abrams, yes.
Are we discussing this at all at a later part of the meeting, or is all of the discussion going to be now?
We can discuss it more now, but we're also going to be setting up a date for a working session. There are a number of dates planned, and that is also open to the public. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
And then, of course, we have to decide, what topics, if any additional ones are to be covered, and then if the session is to be recorded by CNET.
I just wanted to...
Did you want to say something else?
Well, I just wanted to let it be known that if there are proposals, say, to have a committee that does oversight or review of the police departments, that there should definitely be a police officer or chief representation on it, so that everybody knows what everybody's saying and that there aren't any secrets.
Right. Well, I believe the working session that we're planning would be between the police and the board of supervisors.
At this point, it's to review what we have in place currently. So, once we have a good understanding of what we have and everybody's understands where we are, then we can start to look towards the future and what other issues you might want to address at that. So, segueing into, notice that there were the dates in the first line there for potential dates were incorrect. It should be Tuesday, June 23rd, and then through Wednesday and Thursday, June 25th. I just picked, there's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday the next 2 weeks. Pick one or two dates I would suggest, and also a time.
Do you want
CNET's available most of those times to do, I think there was one day they weren't, but.
Shall we just email those to you, our availability? Or do you want?
Yeah, I mean, if you'd like, I mean, we need to advertise it, it's the biggest issue. I mean, if we could, it'd be best if we could get something now and everybody knows what it is. I mean, I don't know if Wednesday, June, a week from today is good or not, or.
Yeah, Dan?
I'm available any of these days. The next Wednesday, the 24th, though, I have a commitment in the afternoon, late afternoon, so I would be available for an early meeting, but not one at this time.
I would actually like to suggest an evening meeting so that it could be viewed by any citizens who might be on a regular work schedule.
Whatever the board would like.
I was going to suggest either a 4:30 meeting or a 7 o'clock meeting. Any opinions from any board members?
I can do any evening except the evening of the 24th. I have a Park District Zoom meeting that night on a.
So you're busy on the 24th. Gotcha.
A geotour thing, but I can do any evening in those next 2 weeks. On that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Why don't we just, if we could agree on the time that we think would work best, and then we could work on the days. Does anybody object to an evening meeting to provide accessibility to the public? the 7 o'clock meeting?
I prefer a 4:30 meeting, but
Okay.
that's just me.
You know what, let's go with the 4:30 meeting. I think we're a little more awake, and I think people can break away at 4:30.
Yeah, I'm gonna suggest that we limit these to 90 minutes. That's why I suggested maybe looking at 2.
Perfect,
You're gonna get a lot of information.
absolutely. So 4:30 to 6?
Fine with me.
Okay, and so now we can start talking about days. I happen to be free all of those days. I do think there's, Pam, do you know if there's a CCMPO meeting on that June 23rd? I have that on my calendar, but it might have changed.
Yes, I do too.
Okay,
The
think
60
there's-
MPO.
Yeah, the 23rd, there is a
okay,
MPO, so I guess we should not do
that's
that.
just pushing it, yeah, for Pam.
Sounds
And
the
Anita can't,
25th work for folks, Thursday?
works for me.
Works for me.
Okay, great.
How about
25th, work. Sounds good.
Okay, how about July 1st, which is then the next Wednesday, just as a backup?
That
That's
works,
fine.
works for me.
Okay, so I'll work on getting
Great.
those 2 set up at 4:30.
Great.
And Chief Jolly will get the information together. He'll probably bring in some other officers from the department to talk to you about some of their, the
Sounds
people
good.
that are the actual use of force instructors.
Perfect, yeah.
So you get the information that the patrol officers are getting, so.
Okay,
I think it'll be informative and interesting, so.
okay, that sounds great. And I had a comment I'll make offline to the chief of some question I have, so. I'll
And
just-
you do want CNET there?
I would like CNET there. Any other opinions from the board? Whoops, I'm off of the,
Okay.
CNET,
And
okay?
if I could suggest, I know the CNET schedule is often put on TV far in advance, but like for today's meeting and the previous 4:30 meeting, it doesn't show that Patton Township was starting to meet at 4:30. It kept the 7 PM publicly announced time. And so if CNET can handle this for the 25th and July 1st, is there a way they can put that correctly on their TV schedule when you go to look
Well,
at it on TV
Yeah,
to
I'll talk
record
to
it?
Cindy and see what we can do.
Great.
And I don't know when these things will be, where they may be rebroadcast either. Probably will not be live, but they'll be available for rebroadcast and also for streaming. And they'll, we'll probably get our own copy of it. We'll save a copy so that we can use it for ourselves, so.
Sounds good.
Great.
Anybody else? Comments? Going once?
One more,
Yes.
one more, Betsy, while we're on the
Yep.
topic. I just wanted to put on the record, Chief Jolly's excellent statement was posted on our Facebook site and on Nextdoor. And we had, I haven't checked it today, but we had more than 100 residents who, in Facebook, you can indicate if you like it, who
Wow,
came in with their own, individual, yes, I like that, or many people posted comments, and likewise on the Nextdoor. And so I think to have, I know we've got many more residents in Patton Township, but to have 100 voluntarily issue a positive statement, I think speaks very well of the chief's statement and the commitment of his department.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm glad you said that,
I
yeah.
was, when we got agency status with Nextdoor, and I, did the sign, got us going, there are 2,300 Nextdoor accounts in Patton Township,
Wow,
which I was, I was surprised by that, because I think we only have like 800, we have like 800 followers on Facebook, so,
there we go.
it is pretty significant, so.
Yeah,
And thank you, Doug, for getting us the agency account. I'll talk to you sometime about how to, I know you've offered that I can post on there, but there's been so much else happening, but I want to talk to you about that. Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
we'll do that.
So, Yeah, one of the reasons I wanted to become a township supervisor, public safety, so there we have it. I think we're making great strides these weeks. We're moving on to Public Works. We've got 5 items under that. Actually, 3 of them relate to the Fox Hill Road, Burnell Road intersection improvement, and then we're looking at a bid award for street overlay, and we're looking at Penn State football. So,
Mostly it's going to be,
go ahead and start.
yeah, you're going to get to listen to me for the first part of it. We have 3 items related to Fox Hill Road and Burnell Road intersection. Just a little background. We've been working on this project in one way or another probably for 2 years. This is part of a public-private partnership that's been put together. We've been awarded a $700,000 state grant for this work. Plus this township has pledged $150,000 towards this project. The remainder of the funding, and then State College Water Authorities will pay for part of it too. That's the next item down, and then the rest of the funding is being provided by the developers of the Nittany Valley Sports Center. I won't go, unless there's questions, I won't go into detail about the project. We've talked about it before, but we did put the project out to bid. 2 bids were received last week from HRI and Glenn O'Hawbaker, and the project engineer reviewed the bids. Everything is in good order, and the recommendation is to take action to award the bid to HRI Inc. for a price of $1,513,163.75.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a second. I couldn't see who that was.
Okay.
Okay, Elliot, and,
We need a vote then?
okay, oh, yes, sorry. All those in favor?
Well, discussion.
Or any
discussion?
discussion? Right, thank you. Seeing none, let's take a vote. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have passed that. We're on to the reimbursement agreement.
Yes, as I mentioned, State College Borough Water Authority would like to take advantage of this project and replace about 800 feet of 8-inch water main along Fox Hill Road. As part of this project, then they're committed to paying for that. So we've developed a reimbursement agreement that was included with the agenda materials. It noted all the issues that had to do with water authority in there. There's some improvements that are being done as part of this contract that are directly related to the road work. And then again, this 800 feet is optional, and they're paying for that. They were going to do it in the next few years and opted to do it now. So we'd only go through one construction zone for this part of the road. They've reviewed the agreement and are ready to approve it. The solicitors reviewed it and is okay with it. So I would ask that the board consider action to approve the agreement and authorize the manager, me, to execute that agreement on behalf of the township.
Okay,
So moved.
Great, second. Anyone second it? I didn't hear or can't see.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Elliot. Yep. So those in favor, or any
Discussion.
further discussion? Out of my sync. And seeing none, let's take a vote on that. Those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? So that passes, and we're on to the owner's representative agreement with Stahl Schaefer Engineering.
Correct. This is, as we noted, we are the funding conduit and the grant recipients for this project. None of the facilities that are being worked upon or anything belong to us, but we are responsible for the proper execution of the contract and the grant work. So we do need eyes on the project part of the time, not full time. The utility owners and PennDOT will have their inspectors out there. But I solicited a proposal from Stahl Schaefer Engineering. They have a gentleman who's used to work for PennDOT and now works for them. He's very familiar with PennDOT procedures. He will be our eyes on the ground, our boots on the ground. We'll take care of the items as detailed at the bottom of page 6 on the agenda. And where the agenda went. And that work will be done on an hourly basis. We've included a total of 300 hours. I don't believe it'll take quite that much time, but the wage rate is quite reasonable. And normally we try to get more than one proposal, but I was under a little bit of a time crunch to get all this together. So I ask your indulgence and ask you to approve the agreement with Stahl Schaefer, and again, authorize me to execute that with the company.
So moved.
Any second? A second, and then we'll have discussion. Was there a second? Did I miss that?
Yeah.
Hi, Pam.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And now, any discussion, comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? So we're on, we have our agreement for the owner's representative,
Yeah.
and we're now on to the bid award for the township street overlay
I believe.
contract.
Steve, are you doing this?
Hey. Mr.
Yeah.
Besson.
Okay, you're on.
Yeah. So, in your agenda packets, you have the results of the June 10th bid opening for the 2020 street overlay project, which we held via Zoom meeting and open via PennBid, so pretty much all online. The current low bid, Leno Hawbaker, with a bid of $197,002.35 $1,000, and I did actually speak with them, and if you can see from the bid tabulations was included, they were about 30% lower than the other two bids. They did say they did not miss anything, and perhaps they were a little over aggressive on their bidding. So the budget for this for 2020 road resurfacing is $340,000. And considering the aggressive unit prices got for that, I spoke with, certainly Glenn, our road superintendent, and he recommended that we add some additional base asphalt repair to Graveswood, the Graveswoods Boulevard part of the project. That should cover everything for the future. And the total then, I sort of did a quick change order, which would be required to add that in. The total then came to $227,658.30, and that's the recommendation for the contract for this year for street overlays. If you have any questions.
Great. Board, questions, concerns? So I think it calls for a motion.
I'll move approval of this bid, including the change order number 1 to Glenn O. Hawbaker.
And second? Elliot seconded. Any discussion again? Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, I'm a little quick here. Opposed? The ayes have it. So we've got our motion there, and I guess the last item under Public Works is the Penn State football in 2020, whatever form that is going to take.
Yeah, I've just been on my list to give you an update. We've been just talking with Penn State ever since the end of the last season. Obviously, what's going to happen this fall is still very, very much up in the air. But Penn State did, in their consultant, have been looking at what they were planning to do for the next, I'm going to call it normal season that might occur. And in the short story is the middle two bullets there on page 8 of the agenda is in terms of what's going to happen to tough trees. They are not adding any more parking spaces to the north zone, so we shouldn't see any greater impact than we saw last year on ingress. For egress, they are looking at, there are 2 lots in the west zone, giving people the option of either going to the north or to the west for that egress. I don't believe those will have a much larger noticeable impact. So in essence, there's really nothing that we need to be worried about or that caused me concern for the upcoming year. And again, without really knowing what's going to happen in terms of COVID and those issues, I don't know that this item needs a whole lot of discussion at this point, but I can tick it off my list of things to update you on.
Sounds good to me. Things went well last year. I can't imagine there being any more traffic this year than there was last year. So I think we anticipated a lot of snafus, but they never happened, as I recall. So thank you.
Yeah, we didn't have any, there were no real issues last year. Again, if, the closer we get to football, there may be some more planning. And again, what we're going to see, I mean, if they only fill the stadium 30% or something like that, it'll be like a blue-white game, which,
Yeah,
we don't even worry about those.
kind of a blip, yeah.
So, remains if there are any additional changes that we see, we'll bring back, we'll come back and update the board on those.
Great. Thank you for that. Question, Dan?
Not about this. When we're finished with this topic, I'd like to just ask Doug a question, an update on the 4th of July.
Is that, for some reason, I thought that was,
We don't have that on the agenda.
No, it's not on the agenda.
oh,
but-
you know what, I was,
Let's
okay.
finish the football if anyone else has.
We have finished the football, I think. So you want to insert your 4th of July question? Might as well. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wondered if you've heard, Doug, from the organizers of the 4th of July fireworks, whether they still intend on carrying out the 4 different locations, including the Hallbaker Industrial Drive location.
Yeah, they are moving forward. Sorry. They're moving forward as they had planned. I know Chief Tyler, or Jolly's been working with them on the Patton Township site. They've been submitting all their information to Tyler. There was one thing that a couple of we managers realized they hadn't quite ticked off all the boxes with code in terms of that permitting. So we connected up the Fourth Fest folks and Center Region Code to make sure that was getting done, and that's in process. So as far as I know, I don't know where the other sites are, so I can't speak to those, but as far as I know, they're working forward.
They're
Okay,
not Patton
thank you.
Township.
No. Well, I do
I can
know where
bet.
the Ferguson Township one is, yes, but,
Okay. Thanks, Dan, for that.
so I mean, they're emphasizing people should find that they're trying to do a show that you could see from almost anywhere that doesn't have a heavy tree cover. So,
Gotcha.
they'd
Yeah.
rather people stay close to home than come out to the sites to try to
Yeah.
see them there.
That's the idea. Great.
Doug, wait, I have a comment.
Yes.
I noticed on next door Park Forest, a discussion starting that quoted some radio station as saying one of the launch sites would be behind Target. It was not identified as the Hawbakers thing, and in the sense of people saying, well, yeah, we'll drive on over there.
There you go, Chief.
So,
Heads up.
Yeah,
yeah.
Chief Jolly will have some extra folks on duty, 1 or 2 extra before and after and right around there. Yeah, remember, it's only a 10 or 15 minute show, so there's really probably not hopefully people don't drive an hour to come see it, but We'll continue to encourage them not to, like I said, stay closer to home.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Should be able to, they're trying to do it so the rockets go very high. There's no ground show.
Okay.
Everything will be very high in the air, so you should be able to see it from many areas in the air, in the region.
And we'll soon find out. Thanks for bringing that up. In planning and zoning, we have 5 items. We've got the planning commission report, we've got the permit for a motorcycle event,
Yeah, we're gonna.
farmer's market, and temporary signs, and one other item. So, yeah, take it away.
Harry McAllister had contacted Nicole and I yesterday and asked if Nicole would go ahead and provide the planning commission report, and then Nicole will also do the introductions on the 2 temporary use permits.
Gotcha.
So, where are you,
Okay.
Nicole?
Nicole.
There she
Right,
is.
So,
Sorry.
in terms of, am I good?
Yep, you're good.
Items that we're not going to talk about farther in the agenda. Our work session items, we are in conversation with Penn State about putting a bikeway connection from the planned airport district area through to try to get a little bit better connectivity for bicyclists and pedestrians. So we've been discussing that at the Planning Commission level. We will continue to do so. Our main focus is affordable housing. We have recently identified 3 new possibilities for addressing affordable housing in the township. The one we centered most of our last conversation around is potentially allowing duplexes in the R2 district. So we're going to look at some parking implications, and I have also been looking at our R3 district that allows duplexes and seeing where we're going to have to make some additional modifications to the R2 ordinance to allow those duplexes. So I'm pulling together some information to take to the Planning Commission for our next meeting. We're also looking at some different inclusionary zoning options. So I've pulled together information from the other center region municipalities to kind of use as our jumping off point to see if we might want to replicate some of that. And in talks with those municipal planners to see what's been working for them or how they might be switching gears a little bit because their current regulations aren't getting them where they would like to go. And we're also considering the idea of expanding the mixed-use overlay district to other C2 properties. So we will kind of focus on all of those things at our next meeting.
Okay. Was that it?
That's
Did we
the
lose?
gist.
Any questions?
Okay, questions, comments? Thank you for keeping up with the affordable housing.
We're trying.
Yeah, I know, it's a challenge. Are we okay on that? We just thought, okay, so I guess we're on, any comments, questions from other board members on that? Planning Commission report. So we're on then next to the Ashcroft American Historic Racing Motorcycle Association event. Nicole.
Yes, so they are requesting a temporary use permit for the ARHMA event to be held out on their farm on Ashcroft Lane. It will be for the weekend of 26th through June 28th. The event will have to follow all of these state mandated COVID-19 restrictions, and there is potential for the pandemic to alter their plans, but I'm not sure where that stands at this point. The motocross event will be held at 177 Ashcroft Lane on that Saturday, and then the cross-country event will be held at 180 Ashcroft Lane on that Sunday, and there will be an ingress and egress Route 550. There won't be any additional structures or lighting, and they do expect the events to wrap up or to be from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. There are several attachments to go with this item, one of which is a detailed letter that explains some of the additional safety and sanitary things that they will do for this event, and they have done at events in the past. The Planning Commission did recommend this for approval with the condition that the events cease all unreasonable noise that is also outlined by our code by 9 p.m. And I believe Lisa Ashcraft is also with us tonight. So Lisa, if you have anything that you would like to add or talk about.
I've been to two events so far, and they have done we have a really good idea, COVID-19, safety precautions we're taking. We will not be serving food. We will have hand sanitizers when people register. Everybody is required to wear a mask on entering. We observe the 6 feet social distancing. The rules and that they follow the day of the race, that's handed out on handouts instead of having a meeting before the race. And the awards at the end of the day are just set out, and there's a list of who gets them, and people just come up and get their own stuff without having a big production. This is a family event. It's grandparents to grandchildren, a lot of families. We will have no problem observing 9 a.m., no noise. There'll probably be no noise after 6. But it's gone pretty smoothly the last couple events, but we will not be serving food due to, all the extra precautions that you have to do. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? It sounds fun.
It's really fun.
Yeah, we'll note we went out to fire, police, and EMS and health and asked for comments, and everybody, we got no contrary comments back from any of those. There were some comments from residents, pro and con, in the agenda, and with that, let's see if, and also that we asked them to apply for a noise waiver for the event. Again, not sure exactly, they held this event last year and we didn't learn about it until after the fact.
Oh.
So, but in case there are issues with noise, we do have a process for providing a noise waiver for the event, for special events, and we've asked them to fill out that. So along with any action to approve the conditional use, we'd ask that you include in there approving the noise waiver.
Yes, somebody's got
Last year, we did ask the township if we could have this event. And it was said that you can have an event for a weekend once a year. And we did notify somebody, we have an email. We didn't really try and do it behind anybody's backs.
No, we weren't trying to insinuate that. I think just the size of it it was bigger than I think what was going to happen, and it rose to the level of what we would call more along a festival, which requires a temporary use permit. But
okay, yep, no problem.
Yeah.
So,
But tests to the success of it. So, okay, so we're all set with that?
well, we need action by the board. Again, the planning commission's recommended conditional approval, and the condition being that make sure that anything producing unreasonable noise is done by 9 p.m.
Okay, so we need a motion, and it's going to be conditional.
Motions, yay.
Well, if you just include that condition. That,
Right, in the.
I just have.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's, the noise is horrible here. Is anybody else having trouble? It's breaking up. Go ahead, Pam, sorry.
I just have a question.
Can't,
I just have a question.
yeah.
Can we get Chief Dolly's input on the event?
I thought we did.
I thought we did. Tyler, did you have any comments?
Yeah, no, I talked to Ken Soder, who had sent out the letter asking for any opinions. Quite frankly, like I said, we weren't aware of the police department in particular wasn't necessarily aware of the event last year. We didn't get any complaints about the event last year. So therefore, we didn't really foresee that there would be any issue with everything that we put in place for it this year. I think we were going to be okay, no problems.
Thank you.
Okay. So we need a motion specifically stating the conditional, relies on the conditional approval of the plan.
Yeah, you can just reference the planning commission's recommendation.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so moved and second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a second there. Is that Elliot, I think?
I believe so. yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion, questions? I'll call for the question. Those in favor of the conditional, of the approval of this with the conditional clause, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So the ayes have it, and we'll move on.
Ms. Ashcraft, we'll get those permits out to you here probably either tomorrow or Friday.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Sure, thank you. Good luck. Have a good
Okay.
time.
Okay, lots of fun.
Okay. So we now have a request for a temporary use permit for the farmer's market.
Yep, the North Atherton Farmers Market is requesting a temporary use permit to extend their farmers market on Fridays as well as Saturdays, to basically go from now through through November 20th. The farmers market will be operated from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. And again, all of the state mandated COVID-19 restrictions will apply to this. And the Planning Commission has recommended approval for this.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Does anyone on the board have a concern or comment?
I'm a customer, a regular customer to the Saturday market, so I certainly would support an additional day
Absolutely.
for other vendors
Yep.
to show up as well. So I'll make the motion to approve this
And-
temporary use permit.
Yep. Do we have a second?
Second.
Elliot, okay. Great. So we, and are those in favor? And any discussion or concerns?
Second.
What? I'm sorry?
Pam just seconded it again.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I literally am having a hard time hearing. So those, I guess now we can say those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? So we have the temporary permit for extending a day in the farmer's market. We're on now to temporary signs, and these are signs that we've all seen up along North Atherton. And they're providing a service not only to the stores, but to those of us who are customers when we're not worried about COVID.
Yes, we normally do not permit that type of signage. After several businesses have been shut down and are reopening in stages, we've seen them use additional signage to inform the public of what stage they're in, whether it's takeout, delivery, et cetera. We have not, the zoning officers, also the sign officer and I discussed it and just determined at this point we would not be enforcing our sign regs.
Yeah.
At some point, we need to get back to it, and the question is what that some point might be. I wanted to see if the board wanted to provide any input. If you want to leave it up to me, I told you I would, at this point, I would say it's September 15th, which is about 3 weeks into Penn State's fall semester. We think everybody in town should know what's going on at that point, and then we would we would notify people probably starting in August that we would, they have to start bringing those signs in. And then we go back to our normal policies now. COVID being what it is, things could change again by then, so that's fluid. If the board would like, I outlined some other options you could look at, and I'm just at this point asking what direction you would like to provide us.
I think I'm happy with you using your discretion, Doug, and your plan that you
Yeah,
presented in the agenda. It looks fine to me.
yeah, likewise. And I think we'll all be monitoring next door Park Forest, but I don't think we'll hear any complaints. I think people really appreciate the information on the signs, so. Any other comments from board members? Manager discretion, okay to follow at this point? Okay, do we need a motion? Do you want a
Elliot,
motion?
I think, had his hand up.
Elliot,
Oh, I didn't.
he did have his hand up or not? No?
No.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay. Any
Okay.
changes, I'll report back to you.
Okay, great, so we don't need a motion.
No.
Okay. All right. Yes, administration board input on the capital improvement plan and then mask wearing in Patton Township. So Doug, I'll have you, I guess you're handling the first one, is that correct, or?
Yeah, I'll take this one. And especially for Anita and Pam, this is their first year in going through the budget / capital process that we use. This capital improvement plan is a 5-year plan that we use is one of our main financial tools looking at infrastructure and large projects and things of that nature. The staff puts a lot of work into it. We won't start until probably the beginning of August to do our part, but I wanted to get out to the board now and say, if you have ideas that you would like to discuss, now is the time to bring those forward. The current plan was distributed with the agenda. If you have questions about any of those projects that are in that plan, we can talk about those, either here or individually. If you'd like, contact me or Larry. And we can talk about those, or if there are new things that you want to start discussing, now is the time to bring those up. Remember, the capital plan is 5 years, accounts for 5 years, so we really, in an ideal world, if we're going to start something 4 years from now, we really do need to start talking about it today. Because there may be some preliminary steps we want to go through in terms of feasibility studies and things like that, that will better define the project as we close into, get closer to actually starting it. So, at this point, the doors are wide open. Everything can be put on the table and we'll have a discussion. At some point, when it comes down to it, we'll start and put everything that everybody suggests into the plan to start with. And then what we look at is what does that do to tax rates and cash balances for the next 5 years also. And that's the first where we start deciding there may be some fiscal constraints that we have to observe in these next 5 years, that we can't do everything we wanted to, and we'll start making adjustments from there. But to start that whole process, it's give us your ideas. So
I have a couple, but unfortunately it's still premature on both of them to set up a potential budget. First one is the Waddle Road widening, potential widening, but that's going to depend on the results of a traffic impact study, which can't be done until Patton Crossing is partially online and open, so we can see what kind of impact that has on traffic on Waddle Road. So we won't know yet. I don't know how to put that into a 5-year plan because we don't know when we'll be able to.
Yeah, I think
we'll do that.
We had it in there, but I think last year.
Well, we had the study in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we did do a feasibility of widening Waddle Road, that last stretch between Strauss and Clearview.
But we took that off.
Yeah, because it was very, very, very expensive, so.
Last year, yeah.
But I mean, we do have some background information that we can start looking back at that again if you'd like.
Well, I would say we still have to wait. I have no idea how, when Patton Crossing will be
Yeah, I don't think.
in the 50 or even the 30% level completed. So I think that's the time to start to put it back in the capital improvement plan when we see.
Well, we'll put it in year 5 maybe at this point.
And the other thing is, you know, Jeff Luck is our consultant on the high-speed internet broadband expansion in Patton Township. And until we can get some, that study is further along, and we have some options to consider on how to proceed, then we'll have a better idea
Yeah.
of what we need to plan for in terms of budgeting. But right now, it's still premature.
Yeah, no, we have some monies in there.
Well, just for the consultant study, right?
No, actually, well,
I think we put a placeholder in there last year, didn't we?
well, yeah, no, we don't, yeah, no, we don't have, we have a couple $100,000 over 5 years, so,
Right.
yeah, no, you're right, Dan. We may want to start adding some money in the out years to that project. We were hoping we'd be a little further along with that. I need to get back with Jeff. We talked once a couple of months ago, and probably time to get back in moving. There may be some money, there may be some monies come available if we can figure out what we need to do with it, with the COVID.
Yeah,
and
I
stuff.
keep seeing, especially, I don't remember, it was the CARES Act, or there was some kind of money available, but the restriction was pretty severe in terms of it had to be rural and an area that had no service.
Right.
Those were the only qualifying areas for that kind of money.
Yeah.
But it's possible that there'll be other funding in the future come through, and because
You know,
this is-
there's the big push to get everybody up to a certain level. and,
Exactly, so we need to be
You know,
ready and prepared to be applying. for
yeah,
some
we're
of that
in this odd situation is we're part rural and part urban.
Right.
And sometimes we have to do a little extra talking to get, for the parts that are not urban, make sure that we can see if we can get access to some of that rural funding. Okay, yeah, I mean, there was $75,000 in that line for this year and 75 next year. I think we're probably only gonna use 25 of it this year at most, so we'll roll those amounts forward, hopefully. And then, you know, as you're right, as we get better defined on what kind of service model we might be using, then we can add more money into those things, based on deployment, and hopefully we figure out a model where there's income coming back in to offset what we spend too, so.
Any other suggestions? Pam, Anita, Elliot? We've got until September you're actually going to start writing this up? I thought it was August.
No, we will start it in August. We will not
Okay.
finish the discussion on the capital improvement plan till mid-October.
Right, but you want to
So-
have it in writing.
Well,
much
again,
earlier.
yeah, because,
Then it goes through a number of iterations.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
because again, if we need to
So-
go out and find some more information between now and September, we can start doing that, and we're not in time crunch and making wild guesses at what some of these numbers should be, so.
So just add this to the
Yeah, it will be on the next two
agenda
agendas for the
July and
board,
August.
so,
That sounds good.
again, if you have questions, comments,
Yeah,
we can talk online or offline,
yeah,
so.
okay. Oh, great. So no formal action on that.
No.
Any other questions on that or suggestions? Well, next up is the education proposal to encourage mask wearing, and I'm going to turn it over to Supervisor Tees, who has been doing a lot of research and thinking on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The research was prompted by several comments that I've heard from residents when I was distributing our please wear mask signs to poll judges to encourage people to wear masks when they voted. One of the poll judges said, why can't the township regulate people having to wear masks indoors? She was speaking of the polling place, but I also have heard that comment asked about why can't the township regulate and require the wearing of masks in businesses. So exploring that question led to what we'll share tonight, which is more a report about the education tools that the township has as a way to let the public know who are asking these questions that the township officials are working to see what educational tools are available to help mitigate and encourage people to voluntarily abide by wearing masks and social distancing. The short answer, as I understand it, we won't go into it a long ways. Doug and the solicitor, Betsy Dupuy, can address this more, is that it's not possible for our township to pass an ordinance that would require the wearing of masks indoors because, and I'll try to be brief on this as I understand it, our county does not have a county health department, which under the Pennsylvania laws, most of the ordinances that would require indoor mask wearing are done through the county health department. And there are other issues as well that make it not feasible for us to pass an ordinance. Therefore, the question remains, how can the township and other government bodies encourage the voluntary compliance with what I think are becoming recognized tools to help limit the spread of the virus? It seems that there is now agreement on the scientific observational studies that show that keeping social distance and wearing a mask can help protect one another and also can help prevent some of the community spread. So therefore, what tools are available that we can use for an education campaign? With the encouragement of Supervisor Whitman and Supervisor Abrams, I was able to speak at the executive committee meeting of the COG group. And for those who, like myself, don't know all the abbreviations, that's the Council on, we're Council of Governments, the Center Region Council of Governments, which includes the 5 townships and the State College Borough. This was not the full forum, this was the executive committee. Out of that, I had conversations today with Sean Kaufman, who is the Center Region Emergency Management Coordinator, and I had an email with Sharima Young, who is the Government Community Relations person at Penn State. They will both be attending a meeting tomorrow at which a suggestion that came out of a Monday meeting that I had with our solicitor, our police chief, our manager, and Supervisor Whitman, some ideas that were generated there are being passed along to this meeting tomorrow. And that is, among other things, to see how our government can help support our businesses who are dealing with the restrictions that they're facing, and how we can encourage residents to follow these health guidances. One proposal is to consider having Penn State and the government agencies and the medical officials join together in a public community campaign encouraging the wearing of masks. For instance, to have pictures of recognizable folk from our region, to have James Franklin, the football coach, wearing a mask, to have a bus driver, to have a doctor, to have a business person, to have a cheerleader sitting on the Nittany Lion statue wearing a mask with some tagline like, "We are mask safe," "We are Penn State proud," "We are mask on," "We are in this together." As I've researched things that other towns have done, you know, some folks, and this is rather too directive, I think, but the idea of signs. I think it's maybe more effective to have pictures of people who are wearing masks. So can there be a community campaign, if you will, that is bringing us all together in agreement that we want to support one another in wearing masks, recognizing that changing behavior is very difficult, but also recognizing that there is concern about what we can do with thousands of students and others returning to our region, and whether that will create a higher risk for community spread. So these ideas, as I understand it, will be discussed tomorrow at a meeting of the IHPG. I love these abbreviations, the Infectious Hazardous Planning Group, and that they will also be brought up at the general meeting of the Council on Government, which is happening next Monday, thanks to Supervisor Abrams, who recommended it be put on the agenda. So my question for the supervisors, I plan to write a note, a letter, as was requested or invited by the Scott of the COG group, if there were any questions to be addressed Monday, suggesting more formally that there be consideration given to having this unified Happy Valley Penn State campaign affirming the value of masks. Would any supervisors like to go in on that note? I'm happy to write it just individually. That's item number 1. And then the second part was that our solicitor had offered the suggestion at a Monday meeting that I was in, that maybe some businesses, some restaurants who are now facing more the need to have outdoor dining, are there any planning commission restrictions? Would they benefit from having some extra space? I'm not sure what limitations they might be facing, but are there any ways that we can help support businesses who are now facing a new environment of greater outdoor dining? Those are 2 items that I would bring before the supervisors. Number 1, are you in agreement that it's okay for us to suggest this joint Penn State business medical coming together with a campaign, an education campaign? Because right now the most effective tool, the only tool we really have, is an education one to encourage voluntary compliance with the health restrictions. I guess that would be my first question.
Yeah, so let's discuss that. The letter, I think it's a great idea. I think it could come from you. If you think it would be stronger coming from all of us, I would agree to sign it, no hesitation. But you've got the ball and you're running with it at this point. Are you going to the meeting tomorrow, or?
No, because I'm not a part of that group.
Oh,
I'm confident. I'm confident from my conversation with Sean and
good.
The fact that I emailed Scott, who apparently distributed my preliminary thoughts to people. Sean had already received my thoughts, so I'm confident it'll be brought up.
Perfect. Okay. You're a good spokesperson for it. So, any other comment on the letter?
All right, I agree. She's a good spokesperson for us, so I encourage her to just continue doing what she's doing.
Yeah,
and
super.
On behalf of us.
Yeah, can she write it just herself on behalf of Patton Township Supervisors?
If you tell her, yeah. I mean, at this point, COG is soliciting any questions you might have for Monday night's general forum meeting.
Yeah, I think it's on it. This is on it already.
Yeah, but I know we had already forwarded a couple of questions to Sharima Young, and she'd responded to us. Not sure what happened to Pam.
Yeah,
We lost your video, Pam.
Pam, I think she had her hand raised. Do you want to say something?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Not really.
You're breaking up.
Can you hear me?
You want to text it in? I don't know. I don't have my.
All right, trying again. That's 1, 2, 3.
We can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Yes, with barely, but go ahead and try it.
I'm in support. I'm in support with Anita, and I would love to, once the general forum meets, also bring that to the Public Safety Committee. I'm all in favor of moving it togetherness as a board. You see, Anita probably to write the letter, but all of the supporting members to support her in this effort.
Okay.
And it's outstanding. And that's getting stabilized something. So thank you, Anita.
You're Pam. Yeah. You're breaking up pretty badly now, but I did hear that you support Anita writing and signing the letter on her own, and something about the general forum, bringing it before,
And Public Safety Committee.
and the Public Safety Committee.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we need, I certainly am in favor of that also. I don't think we need a formal motion
No.
on that. Oh, Elliot, you've got your hand up. Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I agree with doing something like this, but I think we should think about the words we're using in describing this. For example, if you ask 5 or 10 people, how'd you like to help out with this? You get more agreement than if you say, how'd you like to comply with this? I think you want to establish, for example, to me, the idea that you're taking someone's freedom away by telling them they're supposed to wear a mask is sort of like saying, well, you're going to have to comply with getting dressed in the morning if you're coming outside. We're used to doing that. And it's not a compliance, it's something we do. And so I think it's a cultural thing of, there's a habit that if there's a pandemic around, you wear masks.
Yeah.
And people have to get used to that. It's not somebody wants to order somebody to do it.
Yeah, and I would just also stress that examples are very powerful. So not just a picture of Coach Franklin plastered wherever, but encourage him at any of his appearances to, to at least walk on stage with his mask, and if he has to pull it off when he's talking, fine. But he should enter and exit the stage with his mask. So if you can somehow include that in your letter.
My thought would be
Great.
that what we were asking for is for Penn State and the business community together to come up with a marketing approach.
Yes.
They would need to take the lead, and they would identify any taglines or any recommended how it would be, but to feature a variety of Happy Valley's Penn State Center region folk modeling the wearing of a mask and encouraging others to join in. But yes, Elliot, I like your, I'm speaking in terms of compliance just as the great goal, but that doesn't, and you need to have students be a part of this committee, because if you're going to put it on Twitter and other forms that, Instagram, things that I don't even visit. But I think the recommendation is to COG to recommend for the university and the business community to come together and have their marketing people brainstorm ways that we can have a community-wide campaign. We wouldn't be doing it. We're recommending that others do it.
When do you need to have? Oh, sorry.
But we would like, I would love for them to provide materials to us that we could
absolutely.
put on our website, But I don't think we are necessarily the ones to generate it.
No, but I say, whatever. However we can convey, do as I do, not just do as I say. I think that's also builds the sense of community there. So
And
the deadline
we'll
for the...
all be on that, all be on that 40-person Zoom call Monday night, will we not?
Yes, and you can state that. So the letter, do you need, what's the timeline for you writing the letter? And do you need any input from us? Do you want to write it?
How would it be if I draft it and send it out? I guess send it individually to people for
Yeah.
editing.
Sounds good.
Would do a group edit, but it would be on behalf of the Patton Township Supervisors.
Okay.
You know, we ask whether there might be a coordinated
Do you need that?
campaign.
Right, do you need that in hand for tomorrow? There's a meeting tomorrow, you said, for the IHPG meeting or not? Or you going to do it for Monday?
No, I don't think so, because it
Okay.
goes to Scott for COG. He asked
Okay,
for
so
it
you're
by
talking about for
Monday
COG. Gotcha.
deadline, yeah, so.
Excellent. And
And then
then,
secondly,
Yeah,
are there other
second
steps
point.
that we could take individually? As I understand it, the director of COG will be speaking to the CIBC, the Chamber of Business and Industry of Center County, CBICC, that he meets regularly with them. But I think that we could also be thinking about our own businesses in Patton Township. And in a listening mode, you know, is there anything we can do to assist them? Is like the, if Betsy Dupuy is still on the Zoom here, at your suggestion about whether there could be alterations in the Planning Commission zoning if they need some adjustments to facilitate their outdoor dining. I think we can go ahead to proceed to survey our own Patton Township businesses informally, or just be aware of issues to that extent.
how would we go about that? Doug or Betsy, or do we go to the Planning Commission? Time is of the essence, I would
Yeah,
think here.
well, we haven't had anybody come forward and ask for anything at this point, but, you know, my messaging to staff has been, if we do get requests like that, we want to be as nimble and as you know, helpful as we can. You know, to the point of the manager sticking his neck out and making some decisions he might not have full authority to make.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Okay. Okay,
you
so that's
know,
not
we
a
haven't had
problem.
those requests yet, but, we can, I'll talk to the zoning officer and we'll see. I'll make sure we're not missing any opportunities there. We'll, reach out to the business association also and have them they can send a message out to their members and see if
Sounds like
anybody
a
has
good
questions or concerns and
Yeah.
contact us. We'll send out something about temporary signs too, just telling
Great.
people that, you know, they're fine for now, but we'll probably do something, come September at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was an excellent presentation and an excellent set of ideas. So thank you for leading the charge on that. It brings us to the consent agenda. And these are items that are routine in nature, so we can just simply vote on them en masse. The two items under consideration are the minutes and the voucher report, which were included in the supplemental material with the agenda. So I think we can just go ahead and have a motion for approval
I
of
move
that.
approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, and we've had a motion. Do we have a second on that?
Thank you.
Kelly Esther
Yep.
Abrams.
I'm missing that. Thank you. So any discussion on any item? I don't even think you're supposed to have that, but those in favor of approving the two items in the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, check that off. And we're on to the manager's report. Here we go.
Yep. Zoning officer's development update was included. If you have any questions, we can look at that. Provided you some correspondence that I've had over the last few weeks. It was a thank you from Center Lifelink for the donation that the board approved last month There was some email follow-up, a letter with the Christopher Lane residents about the tree removal. They thanked the board for their transparency on the issue. There was the fireworks. The borough had asked for the township to provide an approval, so I took care of that. Also, his letter to residents of Crandall Drive about a change in schedule for improvements that were supposed to start this year and conclude next year, and we're going to get those all done next year. And then finally, the county was soliciting input. They needed to make application to the state to get their $14.7 million of CARES grant money that came from the federal government. So there was a copy of a letter I had put together fairly hastily, I'll admit, about some things that we might need between things we've done and things we might need. Most of the deep cleaning infection would be stuff we would do as we open up more to the public. If we were to start using this room on a more frequent basis, we'd have to do disinfecting between uses. That's about $220, $250 a pop. And again, if we start bringing people into the lobby on a regular basis, we might need additional things. There's some personal protective equipment and a few other things in there. But all the municipalities and nonprofit agencies and even some for-profit agencies were all submitting items to the county so that they could include those monies with their CARES grant application to DCD. And I don't know what the timeline is coming back on that, but we'll keep you advised. And with that, I think that's the end of the substantive part of my work.
Okay.
My part.
Great. Everything else is listed there. And now we're on to committee reports from individual board members. So we'll start with the Transportation and Land Use Committee, affectionately known as TLU. Supervisor Rob.
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Okay, the Bicycle Friendly Community 2020 renewal application is designed with August 12th. It's talking about 2020. Every 4 years, the application must be submitted. In 2012, 2016, the Center for Bike Friendly received a bronze level community. The League of American Bicyclists released community by a list of engineering, education, encouragement, enforcement, and innovation. The committee was shown their presentation showcasing some of the projects that in the last submitted application, which included Celebration Bike Month, Biking Lunch, Community Ride, Finally Fun Ride, the Center Region Scavenger Hunt, and the most popular word of legal word search. And they had 20 more activities.
Pam,
Yeah.
I'm going to stop you. I want to do service to your report, and I'm
Okay.
not hearing it. Is anybody understanding it?
No, it's breaking up pretty badly.
Would you mind too much? I don't want to do any disservice to your report. Would you mind writing that up? I think you've gotten some thorough notes there, and sending it.
I can submit it. Give me a few minutes, I can submit it to Doug.
That's great. And then we can make that available. Can we just put that on the website?
Yeah.
For a couple of weeks. There may be somebody who follows the bike path. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. I can understand about 1 out of every 10 words that you're saying. Is everybody else having the same problem on the receiving end? Unfortunately. Oh, I'm sorry. I know you worked hard on that report.
Betsy, would it be possible for her to just do a phone call-in so we could hear her without?
Why don't you try,
Is it the video problem?
It might be.
Link that's,
Pam, why don't you try and call in, and in the meantime, I'll have Dan and Larry, Dan Trevino, Larry Pegger, tag team on the next committee report, which is the ad hoc facilities. Does that sound like a plan? Should Pam will try and call in? Okay. Thank you, Pam. Good idea, Anita.
Okay, the Ad hoc Facilities Committee, which was held on June 2nd. The first thing we did was had some project updates on the Millbrook Marsh Nature Center. There's been a slight delay on their projects due to staffing schedules. So the group was not able to meet. That's the group that's deciding what they're going to do next. So, and they're going through rolling furloughs, so this month, so it's going to be delayed a little bit. They did decide to separate the RFP into two pieces, so for the boardwalk. The code office, most of the painting's been done, the carpeting should be done by now. The furniture is received or orders, but they're still a little ways off until they move in. So,
Sounds nice.
okay. The next thing we talked about was the COG parking lot study. So they had Stahl Schaefer do a study on the parking lot. On the parking lot, there was some discussion of whether we should look at the parking lot as an asset that we're going to own for 8 years, or we're going to have for 8 years because the lease to the building is up in 8 years, or if it's something that we should look at for the next 20 years. So there's still some discussion on that. But Stahl Schaefer said there's no potholes, but there are cracking and ruts caused by, mainly the ruts are caused by the garbage trucks that come in there. So they're going to repair those now with some spot repairs to the crack in the ruts. The ADA ramps in the parking lot are out of spec, so we're going to have to address those. And some items are going to be made to be done before the fall, and that mainly deals with crack filling, seal coating, which hasn't been done since 2013, and swale cleaning, because basically there's no swales left at this point, so they're asked to do that. Stahl Schaefer suggested that we contract them to do annual service on all the COG parking lots, where we could get some economies of scales by doing by including all the parking lots. It's something they do for Penn State, and they would maintain the parking lots. So I'm not sure where we left that. There was discussion, do we want this service, but I don't think there was any discussion as to getting them to quote it as of yet.
Cool.
The next discussion was on the facilities coordinator job description. We decided to go ahead with the job description, so they're going to move ahead with hiring the facilities coordinator. The next thing we discussed was the summary of the COG facility information, which was the report that Joe Biglione had done. He had added a second page that added the cost of the rental and the maintenance. So there was some discussion of who's responsible for maintaining the buildings. Are we just responsible for maintaining the buildings, or the entire property, or entire acreage? So we need to do a review of all the leases and agreements to make sure that that's addressed in all of them. Then we discussed the parks maintenance facility, the current facility we have, which is out by the Nittany Mall. The lease expires in November with a 1-year option, which we'll most likely exercise. We need to look at the location, the size, et cetera, for a new facility or a new lease location. So we're going to go back and look at the documents from the park storage facility that was discussed years ago, put together by Alan Popovich. And they're going to redistribute those to for our next meeting.
Okay.
A central location would be ideal. That would be around the COG building, so I don't know where they put it. They're looking at like a 3,000 square foot facility, but they'd need a much larger building with some room for outside storage. The July meeting's going to be held outdoors. We don't know, either probably Oak Hall or Millbrook Marsh. And
Nice,
then that's the end of the meeting.
thank you. It's quite a challenge looking for that space for that storage.
Everything's a challenge with the facilities committee.
Yeah. Tam, were you able to reach Doug? I saw you on your phone.
Yes.
Oh, you sound good. Is she on the phone?
Yeah, she's on the phone.
Yeah.
What a difference. Wow, go girlfriend. Okay, give us your report. Transportation and land use. You can
Okay.
start from the top. Yay.
Okay, we're doing the land consumption study update. The land consumption study project was included in 2019 to 2020 during the CHIP program. We discussed some of the main goals about the project were to elevate residential development density in the RGB, regional growth boundary. We discussed the RGB, residential density, current development capacity, and primary results in the next step. We decided the final report will be provided additional analyzed data on the land consumption. And the decision was to work on the final report and get it back to the CRP City Center Region Planning Commission and the TLU committee.
Great. Thank
And
you.
that's the end of my report on land consumption.
And can,
Did you want me to go back on the
please,
bike-friendly community?
yes, because I didn't hear much of that. I don't think it came through very well. Thank you.
Okay, the bicycle-friendly community 2020 renewal application. The deadline is August 12th, 2020. Every 4 years, the application must be submitted. In 2012 and 2016, the Center Region Bike Friendly Community received the bronze level community rating. The League of American Bicyclists rates community by a list of these: engineering, education, encouragement, enforcement, and evaluation. The committee was shown a presentation showcasing some of the projects from the last time the application was submitted, which included the celebration, the Celebrate Bike Month, Bike and Lunch, Family Fun Ride, Center Region Scavenger Hunt, and the most popular was Bike Lingo Narrative Circle. And they have so many more great projects. As they submit the Center Region BFC application, we commend their hard work in striving for a silver level community rating this year. And there were no actions taken.
Awesome. Let's hope for that silver medal. Thank you so much. I'm glad we were able to get a clear communication from you. Sorry about that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Next is me as the representative on the Public Services and Environmental Committee. The Act 537 Special Study Plan for the Scott Road Pump Station and Bristol Avenue Interceptor will probably not be started until September 2021. And at the root of that is it needs to go through a resolution. The municipalities need to pass resolutions. This is the 537. It has to jump through a lot of hoops. The problem with the pump station is it's not large enough to handle the capacity, and there are extreme events of a lot of water that make it difficult for it to handle it properly. So until 2021, they'll continue with Band-Aids to keep it running and safe, but we should see that proposal at the municipal level, and we'll have to approve it. It needs a public hearing for that. We got a very extensive update on the nutrient capacity at UAJA. It's very complicated. I'm still trying to understand it myself, but basically we have to comply with that to meet standards that are set at the Chesapeake Bay. The impact of nitrogen is very detrimental to the environment. And the reason we're looking at this is because we're considering increasing the sewer area served, which right now is, I guess, in the regional growth boundary or the sewer boundary, but we're entertaining a proposal from Patton Township, which is putting in a development, of course, in Patton Township, but it's geographically very close to the UAJA center. So we will be continuing to consider that. The draft climate action resolution, which essentially set the goals of for the year 2050 of a 40% reduction in greenhouse gas, 40% reduction in greenhouse gas by 2030, and then by 2050 to have an 80% reduction in the greenhouse gas emission. In order to meet the 100% reduction in greenhouse gas emission, we would seek offsets, carbon offsets that would then reduce the carbon footprint to zero by 2050. That is going to be passed on to the general forum. We will vote on it either this month or next month. We're not certain. We felt that it was important to go ahead with the resolution, even though the committee that will be handling it will not be formed, but we felt that it would be guiding for the committee. And I will add that these standards are fairly standard. A lot of organizations who are seeking the zero greenhouse gas emission are going with the 80% reduction and then 20% carbon offset. So I don't think we're breaking any sound barriers here with that. Let's see. Oh, was Pam able to give you a copy of the sustainability logo by any chance?
She emailed it to me.
Okay, sorry, I didn't get it in time.
Okay.
The staff, Pam Adams and her department had some interns who presented, design interns who presented several designs. One stood out head and shoulders above the others, but all of the young students worked as a team on the final design or collaborating with that. It's I think, a unique design. It's a tree, which is not so unusual, but the branches are actually in the shape of a map. So it does very much to me say urban and rural nature of our center region. It's quite a good design. So we'll hopefully have that for you next time. And yes, last but not least, but the CPACE is a loan program. I forgot to write down the details of that, but it allows us at the county level to have access to other loans. So I apologize for not having that. We're back now to Pam Robb with public safety.
Okay.
Yay!
They
Sounds good.
transferred the hazmat program from Penn State to Cobb. We discussed correspondence that was sent to the committee by Harrison Township that had comments and concerns. The issue was addressed by Chief Steve Bear to Harrison and Half Moon Township. He also addressed the committee with answers and questions that he could answer that we may have had presently. The chief didn't see any problems moving it forward, and that all agreements were finalized and in hand. The only suggestion from one of the committee members was to receive status updates. No action was needed, but a motion was made to affirm the commitment to move it forward to the executive committee. The vote was taken. The yes were College Borough, College Township, Ferguson, and Patton. The no was Harrison Township. Abstain was Bellefonte, and absent was Half Moon. The vote passed and was forwarded, they forwarded the agreement to the executive committee. That's in my report.
Oh, great, okay. So you don't want to talk about the, that's perfect. You don't need to. We'll go on to thank you, Supervisor Robb. We'll go on to Dan Trevino, who's going to be talking about finance.
Thank you, and I admit that I'm a lot younger than Larry Pager, and he has a much better memory than I do, so please, Larry, fill in.
I will do so.
Anything that I skip over or don't treat adequately. First thing on the agenda of the Finance Committee, June 11th, SCLO Library learned that they are eligible to apply for a payroll protection program loan. It's from the stimulus money. And they are probably also eligible for loan forgiveness. So the amount that they would be applying for would be $341,220. And if it's loan is forgiven, then it is basically free money. Would not have to be paid back. So we agreed they should apply for that, and I believe the exec committee also took this up in their meeting, which Elliot will report on.
Gave it a thumbs up.
There was some discussion, a little bit of discussion about potential to refinance the existing loans, not just the regional park loan, but also the pools loan from Jersey Shore State Bank. And the question was whether we should ask our consultant, Chris Givens from Concord Public Financial Advisors, to investigate to see if there would be any possible cost savings, in other words, lower interest rate possibility if these loans were consolidated. So the committee agreed to give him the go-ahead to explore that possibility. And by the way, Mr. Gibbons what's the word? Compensation for his efforts. If he does not if he cannot get any cost savings, he doesn't charge us anything.
That's right.
So it's only if he's able to reduce cost will he, ask for a fee for his work. Let's see what else. With some informational items on the current financial standing. Discussion on the 2021 program plan and capital improvement planning. Larry, any details on that you can remember?
Just that, with the financial update, there was a long discussion on where we stand. They're monitoring what's trending up, what's trending down in cost and revenue at the different funds. In the 2021 program plan and CIP, this year's document's going to be a much simpler document than we've had in the past. They're trying to minimize any new projects that might not be critical and critical being something that definitely has to be done, such as the boardwalk at Millbrook Marsh. So they're going to show the projects that we've delayed, but they're trying not to add too much new.
Also, Larry, I'm going to ask you what you remember on the
Interagency loan policy. So the policy they wrote is pretty comprehensive on how to figure out the interest rate, how to figure out whether something is eligible for the loan. So they've written up this policy and they've moved it on to the general form. So you will see it there.
Right. FEMA reimbursement discussion, I don't remember anything about that.
So the FEMA reimbursement discussion, Sean was there to talk to us about the discussion of the 75% match we would get from FEMA. There's not much money. The real big decision is whether we could get reimbursed for the $15,000 that they donated to Meals on Wheels. We're not too sure about that yet. They're waiting for some sort of decision from FEMA. And all the collection of the money that looks like we could get from FEMA is being handled by COG. So we're to provide COG with the money, our information, and then hopefully we'll get money through FEMA.
Okay, that's it.
Great, thank you very much. We're on to the...
Madam Chair, this is Pam.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
so sorry, I cut off my report because I was going into the second part of the Public Safety Committee. Can I continue?
You can, yes. We're back to the public safety.
Okay. It's the update article of agreements for Center Region Building and Housing Code. We
Yes.
discussed the difficulty in maintaining a regional appeal board and presenting a 5-member and 2 alternates. A recommendation was presented to the committee to review and discuss a different structure of a 7-member and no alternate board. The restructure would make the board active and increase customer service. The committee seemed to agree to move forward within 2 months to get a light draft and submit it back for their review. The COVID-19 monitoring the construction site, code agency staff began performing commercial and residential constructive inspections on May 4th, 2020, after the governor lifted the stay-at-home restriction. We discussed the agency moving into a green phase. There are 3 phases. The first phase is green. The second phase is temperature and environmental conditions. And the third phase is the regulation and guideline documents posted by the state. We also discussed how to keep inspectors safe while inspecting sites, and most contractors understood the requirements and their responsibility to keep their employees and work sites safe. That's the end of my report.
Thank you very much. Thanks for chiming in there. So we'll now move to the executive committee report, which Mr. Abrams will deliver.
Yes, we had the executive committee yesterday. We're going to have a general forum meeting attempt by Zoom this coming Monday, so we'll see how that works. And we went ahead with the approval of the move of the hazmat stuff to where we had said, and I signed those documents with Chief Bear this morning. He came over with a whole pile of those, so that's completed.
Great. Anything else?
Nope.
That's great. We're on to, a couple of other, whoops. So these are other groups that are active, Climate Action and Adaptation, and then there's what's called the Technical Advisory Committee. That actually wasn't canceled, and we, oh, there we go. Oh.
It's the Solar Power Working Group, aren't there?
That was canceled.
Solar Power, yeah, actually, I'll do the Solar Power Working Group. That was canceled, but
That's correct.
I will just give you an update on that. The next step is to send out an RFP for consultant on the solar power purchase process. That was going to be sent out in June, I believe, or currently, but it's going to be delayed until September when we know more about the status of the budget. So the TAG meeting, which is the Technical Advisory Committee meeting for the Climate Action and Adaptation, which is really working on the greenhouse gas emission plan, the TAG concentrated this last time on ways to reduce greenhouse gas related to transportation. We also got a very extensive list that Pam Adams had compiled, along with the help of experts that had come in at a previous month's meeting to give ideas on how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions with essentially energy use in houses and commercial buildings. The energy use in buildings is about 60% of the greenhouse gas emissions, and in the central region, and transportation contributes to about 20% of them. So those are the two big items that we'll be dealing with first. I guess that's it. So I did want to say just a very interesting fact that clean and renewable energy job growth in the state of Pennsylvania is at an annual rate of about 6%, and that is about 5 times the overall job growth rate in Pennsylvania. So don't let anybody tell you there's no money in it. There's no jobs in it, whatever. We are on to human resources. That Anita Tees, that was canceled. General forum meetings June 22nd. We've got Parks Capital July 9th, I think. And the rest, we have a report from the Water Authority by Pat Monteith that is enclosed. All is very thorough. Other committees did not meet, it looks like. CCMPO, anybody need to report on that?
Next
That's
week.
coming up.
Yep.
Sorry about that, yeah. Okay.
And there was a report from Mr. Downsborough on Center County Airport Authority that,
Yes, thank you.
yeah, let's see.
Yep.
Passenger in and out was down 97% last month. So hopefully things will start moving forward, and the rest of his report was about the rezoning we already talked about.
Okay. So we're on to other, I just wanted to, I wanted to give a shout out for supervisors, Pam, Rob, and Anita Tees, who are our two newest supervisors, being appointed respectively in January and then late February. But these two new supervisors have really picked up a banner that they feel very strongly about social justice and public health, and they have run with it. So I say welcome and kudos and thank you for all that you've done in the last several weeks. Really a fantastic contribution. And then
You're welcome.
yeah. Then I think we're on to the adjournment unless anybody else has other business.
Move we adjourn?
All right,